Unit 5. Marriage, Traditions and Trends.
Good afternoon, class. Today, I'd like to talk about a subject which is probably going to be very important in your future, for many of you at least, marriage. Marriage, as you probably know, has been with the human race for thousands of years. And although some would say that the institution of marriage has come under attack in recent decades, marriage isn't going to disappear anytime soon. We're going to start today by looking at some definitions of marriage. Then we'll consider the selection of a marriage partner, a critical decision that you will see has been handled very differently by different cultures. We'll see that how societies handle this question has changed in recent decades, and this change is having a strong impact on marriage in today's world. Okay, so what is marriage? This may seem like a simple question, but not every society answers it in the same way. Generally, we can describe marriage as a more or less durable union between one or more men and one or more women that is sanctioned by society. I know that's long, so let me repeat it. Marriage is a more or less durable union between one or more men and one or more women that is sanctioned by, that is accepted by, society. All right? Now, the words sanctioned by society are an important part of this definition because social approval is what distinguishes marriage from other relationships between adults. A second important point is that the obligations between partners, or the responsibilities that the partners have toward each other, are specified in marriages. Now, what do you think might be an example of a marriage obligation? What are married people expected to do? Yes, Monica.
To take care of your marriage partner?
Good. Anything else?
To take care of the children?
Absolutely. Those are the main ones. So, one obligation is to provide care for the children and provide them with an acceptable position in society. Now, this definition of marriage says that marriage is a licensing of parenthood. Okay, just what do we mean by that? A licensing of parenthood means it allows people to become parents. Now, in most societies, the key has traditionally been having acceptable social fatherhood. This is called social fatherhood because traditionally, the father is supposed to be responsible for ensuring the social development of the child. Some people say, though, that this task has more often fallen to the mother. In addition, nowadays, some people prefer to use a term such as social parenthood and do away with the gender bias of the traditional term. I see a question. Go ahead.
I'm a little confused by what you mean by social fatherhood or social parenthood. Could you explain more about that?
Sure. How about an example? Maybe that would make the idea clearer. In many countries, children can be adopted. Now, in those cases, the adoptive parents are not the actual birth mother and father.
Okay, so the people who adopt the child become the social mother and social father.
Exactly. So, if you remember that the social mother or father isn't necessarily the birth mother or father, you'll have the idea.
Okay.
All right. So, those are a couple of ideas about marriage and how marriage can be defined. Now, let's move on to take a look at how marriage partners are selected. The first ideas that are important are exogamy and endogamy. Exogamy, that's E-X-O-G-A-M-Y. And endogamy is spelled E-N-D-O-G-A-M-Y. Do you have that? Okay. So, exogamy is the idea that marriage should take place with someone from outside of our group. And endogamy is the opposite, the idea that marriage should take place with someone inside our group. Now, this sounds quite simple, but if you think about it, any individual belongs to many different groups. For instance, we can belong to a racial group, a national group, a socioeconomic group, or a religious group, to name a few. So, one idea of marriage might be that you should marry within your religious group. For instance, the parents of a Muslim child might want their child to marry another Muslim. Parents of a Catholic, another Catholic, and so on. What would that be? Exogamy or endogamy?
Endogamy, because that's inside a group. It's the same religion.
Right, that's endogamy. However, those same parents would almost certainly demand that their child marry someone who was not a member of their immediate family. In other words, you can't marry your brother or sister. That's illegal in many societies. That's a fairly universal example of exogamy. Rules against marrying someone within one's own immediate family are thousands of years old. If you think about your country, your culture, or your parents for a few minutes, you'll realize that endogamy is an extremely powerful idea in most societies. However, this concept is changing. Take my brother as an example, or I guess I should say a counterexample. What I mean is that his marriage is a good example of exogamy. He's married to a woman who is a different race and different nationality. They speak different native languages. Although our family has been understanding and supportive of his marriage, he's the only person in the entire family who has married outside of our national, cultural, and language group. So his marriage is far from the cultural norm. In many other parts of the world, the cultural norm as well is to marry within the national, racial, and linguistic group. This is interesting to think about, and I'll give you chances to discuss this later. Now, let's move on to the second point, about how marriage partners are selected. Who chooses the marriage partner? Well, if we look at different cultures throughout the world, the decision is made either by the family, usually the parents, or by the couple who is getting married. The first case is called an arranged marriage. In an arranged marriage, the family restricts or controls the choice of marriage partner. In extreme cases, the individuals getting married don't meet each other until the wedding ceremony itself. Obviously, there's no dating or romance before the wedding in this situation. Now, depending where you come from, you may be very familiar with arranged marriages because they're still common in the Middle East, Africa, and some countries in Asia. Arranged marriages are found in cultures in which the extended family is common. That is, the family is made up not only of parents and children, but also grandparents, grandchildren, and perhaps even aunts and uncles and so on. In extended families, marriage is a family affair, and individuals are expected to conform to the overall wishes of the group. In other words, the people getting married have little or no independence in terms of choosing their marriage partner. Now, in contrast to arranged marriages, people in many places around the world have a great deal of freedom in deciding who they'll marry in what some call love marriages. However, the notion that marriage is a private decision between two people is not a traditional idea. Typically, marriage has been the business of the whole family or even the whole tribe. This has been the norm throughout most of the world, and the idea that men and women could marry freely is relatively modern. In ancient societies, the tribe had to approve of the match, and the idea of a couple choosing each other freely would have been extremely shocking, and in many cases, against the law of the group. In other words, the wishes of the individual were subordinate to the wishes of the group. Even in the societies upon which modern Western civilization is based, meaning the Romans and the Greeks, marrying for love was virtually unknown. The fact is, love has not been the point of marriage in much of human history. Having children and cementing ties between families, tribes, and other groups have been considered far more important. Actually, this all makes sense when you consider that marriage laws are essentially attempts to preserve the type of family unit that is valued in that culture and to protect traditional cultural values. Now, let's fast forward to the present. As we're all aware, the situation surrounding marriage has changed. The world has been undergoing rapid changes in the past century, and one of those changes has been a general eroding of the extended family in many parts of the world. The extended family is gradually being replaced with the smaller nuclear family, in which parents and children live separately from other members of the family. In the nuclear family, individual choice is very important. The idea is that mature individuals should make their own choices regarding marriage, and that love and romance are necessary conditions for a successful marriage. The couple is also expected to set up an independent household of their own. So, for better or worse, the world seems to be moving much more strongly toward freedom of choice where marriage is concerned. I think that it's interesting to speculate about the possible results of this trend. For instance, what do you think might happen where endogamy and exogamy are concerned? Do you think we may see a breakdown of endogamy? Will traditional institutions such as arranged marriages begin to erode? Do you think we'll see more interracial and international marriages? If so, how will this affect our world? Well, I'd like to hear what you think about these ideas, so take a look at the discussion questions 2 through 5 at the end of Chapter 6 and be prepared to discuss those next class. All right? Any questions? Okay, get out your homework and let's break into groups.